You ever have one of those mornings where the universe seems hellbent on waking you up with a punchline? That was me, 7 a.m. sharp, doorbell blasting like a fire alarm. I stumble out expecting maybe a lost Amazon package, and instead, I'm greeted by two sheriff's deputies with clipboards, papers ready, serious faces, like I'm about to get served for the crime of parking my work truck in my own damn driveway. Before I can even wrap my head around it, my wife Sarah steps out behind me. Full police uniform, detective lieutenant bars gleaming, steam rising from her coffee mug mixing with the scent of fresh motor oil coming out of the garage. Dead silence. I mean, you could literally hear the dew dripping off their patrol car windshield. Those deputies, they look like they wish they were anywhere else but on our gravel driveway about to serve an HOA complaint to a cop's house. You know what I mean? 6 months of pure harassment had led to this moment. And the look on those two grown men's faces as they realized they'd just been played, priceless. Let me back up a sec, because if you've never tangled with an HOA, you might be wondering how I got here. My name's Marcus Hartwell, 45, and half a year ago, I was getting financially dismembered in a divorce ugly enough to make the evening news. My ex-wife turned our HOA rules into a weapon of mass destruction. Emergency meetings scheduled during my custody time, noise complaints whenever I started my truck before dawn, holiday fines because my Christmas lights weren't the approved warm white. She walked off with the house, the BMW, and half my retirement, while I walked away with a front row seat to just how nasty suburban power games could get, and a blood oath. Never again would I live under any HOA's thumb. I'd rather set up shop in a shipping container. So when I went house hunting, my one non-negotiable rule was no HOAs. That's how I found 1847, Millfield Road, this weathered old farmhouse with more soul than every beige McMansion combined, sitting outside the jurisdiction of the new development next door, Stonegate Estates. My place predated their HOA by 80 years. I paid cash, moved in my tools, started to believe I'd finally escaped. The house creaked, the floors groaned, and the porch was perfect for a beer at noon, without some clipboard-waving enforcer timing my grass. I figured I was in the clear. Turns out, I was wrong. The folks next door, Stonegate, lived in a land of strict beige conformity. Every yard so obsessively maintained you'd think the grass was vacuumed. The previous owners, the Kowalski family, had been here 50 years, never had a peep from the HOA. That was before Delilah Vance moved in. She made Hurricane Delilah look like a light drizzle. Pete, the guy at the hardware store who knows every neighborhood secret, warned me. She's got a black belt in making folks disappear. Delilah, freshly crowned HOA president, was a corporate insurance drone by day, but a full-blown neighborhood dictator by night. Compliance patrols in her black Lexus, snapping photos of trash cans, grass, vehicles, you name it. She greeted me 3 weeks after I moved in while I was under my truck, holding a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. "Welcome to our community," she smiled, like a shark. Handed me a mandatory compliance orientation packet. Inside, rules and forms demanding pre-approval for everything from mailbox color to grass height. I wiped the grease off and told her, "Ma'am, I'm not in your HOA." Her face just about cracked. Then she whips out some hand-drawn map like a kid's homework project. I showed her my actual survey documents, stamped and sealed. Her smile evaporated. "We'll see about that," she muttered, and honestly, the air got colder. From there, it turned into a siege. 2 weeks after the truck incident, Brenda, her right hand, who saw herself as the enforcer, discovered I fixed cars for neighbors. You know, basic American community stuff. Brakes for the math teacher, oil change for the single mom next door. Brenda turned that into a full-blown city complaint, said I was running an illegal business. What she didn't know, I already had a business license and had checked zoning laws before I bought the place. The inspector, Rodriguez, guy knew his stuff, said my setup was textbook compliant. I passed, no problem. But I started documenting everything. Photos, permits, timestamps, the whole 9 yards. Sarah drilled that into me. When someone's playing dirty, keep receipts. 3 days later, Brenda escalated, filed a complaint about Sarah's police cruiser, claimed it was a commercial vehicle. She even filed with the department, said Sarah was making families uncomfortable. That was a new level of audacity. But Sarah handled it like a pro, providing documentation and never letting her composure slip. Still, that was the last straw for me. Attacking my wife's job crossed a line. We weren't the only targets. Our neighbor Frank, a Korean War vet in his 70s, got hit for his fence being 2 inches too tall after it stood unbothered for 15 years. Jessica, the single mom nurse, got cited for leaving her stroller on the porch. Brenda called it unsightly storage. You could feel the mood shifting. Sarah, always the detective, started connecting the dots. Dates, violations, selective enforcement. She said, I've seen this in discrimination cases. Some people get cited for everything. Others never get touched. Brenda upped her game. Facebook groups, anonymous letters, passive-aggressive photos, all meant to shame us. But she underestimated 2 things, my Navy stubbornness and Sarah's experience sniffing out fraud. I countered her Facebook posts with photos and proof, responded with humor, turned her scare tactics into punchlines. But the attacks kept coming, and soon, anonymous letters started appearing in mailboxes, hinting that increased police presence was making families feel unsafe. The language was subtle but pointed, dog whistles about who did and didn't belong. Next, she tried to fast-track a new rule about exterior modifications and tried to make me take down my security cameras and workbench retroactively. But I'd learned my way around red tape. HOA bylaws require notice for new rules, and you can't apply them retroactively. She was banking on us not knowing the rules. Big mistake. Then came the noise complaints. She coordinated her crew to record and document my garage at all hours, hoping to get my business license revoked. I installed a professional sound meter and logged everything. Turns out my morning repairs were quieter than the garbage truck at 6:30. I kept records, compared my 68 decibels to the 95 from construction sites and 85 from leaf blowers. Every complaint she filed, I countered with proof. But Brenda wasn't done. She hired a surveyor to claim my driveway crossed into HOA land, said my workbench was 6 inches over an imaginary line. Sarah dug up our deed and found the HOA's maps didn't match county records. Either the surveyor was incompetent or someone was creatively shifting boundaries. It was obvious. She was throwing paperwork grenades to bury us. But paperwork was our home turf. Sarah had 18 years in law enforcement, and I organized like a military op. Copies, timestamps, GPS-tagged photos. We filed formal grievances for harassment. Then, neighbors started whispering their own stories. 15 families had gotten notices in the last 3 months, mostly working class, veterans, single parents, folks not fitting Brenda's vision. We realized we weren't alone. We were documenting systematic discrimination. One sleepless night, I started digging into HOA financials. What I found: Brenda was pocketing $2,400 a month from the management company. On top of that, 85% of HOA contracts went to her brother-in-law's construction firm. Landscaping, pool, snow removal, all at inflated prices, all with no competitive bids. Our reserve fund was missing over $350,000. Brenda's board had pushed through rules so they could approve contracts under $25,000 with no oversight, and every deal was just under the threshold. This was organized fraud, plain and simple. Sarah pulled records, cross-referenced board minutes, bank statements, and it all lined up. Emergency contracts, no documentation, all routed to Brenda's family. It wasn't just unethical, it was criminal. Maria, our neighbor and a real estate attorney, joined in, explained our legal options, how board members could be held personally liable. Robert, the accountant 3 houses down, did a forensic audit, found the money trail. Jessica built a list of every harassed neighbor. Frank, our vet, had meeting minutes nobody else could find. Even Emma, our daughter, turned her school project into demographic maps and violation charts. This was now a full-blown investigation. We prepped for the annual meeting like it was D-Day. Maria drafted complaints for the state attorney general, Sarah organized our evidence, and Robert made a presentation that could give any CPA chills. We expected Brenda to fight back hard. Legal threats, smear campaigns, even vandalism. She did all that, too. My truck got its tires slashed, our cameras were tampered with, flyers smeared our names across windshields, anonymous 911 calls harassed us. But we documented it all. And then, Brenda made her final mistake. She called the cops on the cops, sent deputies to serve me at my own door, thinking she could frame me as a criminal. Instead, she handed us the last piece of evidence we needed. Sarah, cool as ever, invited them in, laid out every license, every decibel log, every bit of proof. The deputies left embarrassed, realizing they'd been used. Word got out fast. Brenda called the cops on a detective's family. The whole neighborhood heard about it. Social media lit up, local press picked it up, and suddenly, she was on the defensive, her credibility in shreds. The annual meeting? It was standing room only. Maria and Robert laid out the evidence, charts, contracts, the missing funds, the kickbacks, the discrimination patterns. Brenda tried to deny it all, but the documents didn't lie. Maria stood up and said, "Resign now and cooperate, or face criminal charges and personal liability." The vote was overwhelming. Board recalled, audit demanded, charges pressed. Within weeks, the Attorney General was investigating. Brenda and her crew faced criminal charges. Her brother-in-law's company was barred from contracts, and our missing money started coming back. We elected a new board, transparency, community input, no more unchecked power. Sarah became the oversight officer. Emma got a scholarship from recovered funds. Our story went statewide, even inspired new legislation. The barbecue smoke and laughter replaced the fear and vanilla candle smell. Jessica's stroller lived happily ever after on her porch. Frank's fence stood tall, and my work truck became something of a neighborhood mascot. We proved that communities are always stronger than the petty tyrants trying to control them. If you're fighting your own HOA nightmare, keep your receipts, know your rights, and stand together. Don't let anyone tell you justice isn't worth the trouble, because sometimes living well really is the best revenge. Drop your own HOA horror stories in the comments. I guarantee you're not alone. And hey, subscribe if you want more stories where the good guys actually win and the bad ones get exactly what they deserve. Hit that bell so you don't miss the moment when regular folks finally stand up and take back what's theirs. Because in the end, sometimes the sweetest sound in the world is laughter echoing across a playground built with justice, not fear.